time to plan, and now we're over on the top of page 3. Okay, yes, sir.
Are you differentiating the term nursing home versus assisted living or
Yes, with
memory care?
yeah, yes, I am. The question is differentiating a nursing home versus somewhere like here. The differentiation is, usually things happen in stages. We're at home, we're fine, and then perhaps we need someone to come into the house for a few hours a day. Then we're no longer able to be at home by ourselves, so perhaps we go into an independent living facility or an assisted living facility like upstairs here, Our Lady of Peace, that's assisted living. Then we need too much nursing care for assisted living, so we have to move into a nursing home. And it's the nursing home, it's that last stage that Medicaid pays for. Medicaid will not pay for the independent or the assisted living. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. There is a distinction. Okay, so gifts, gifts to children. As I said, I oftentimes talk with clients about Medicaid rules and their eyes just kind of glaze over and they say, I'm just not interested in all of that. It's too complicated. I'll just give it all to the kids. Well, unfortunately, I've seen that happen with disastrous results. What if the child or the grandchild is too young? Remember, this is our life savings we're talking about here. So what if they're just too young or too, regardless of age, too immature to handle the money? What if I give money to my son, he runs into creditor problems later on. Now those creditors are after not just his money, but my money as well. If they're divorced, if my daughter, we've given her the gift, she gets married and then later on is divorced. Now my ex-son-in-law is coming after, again, not only the marital money, but our money as well, which we gifted to the daughter. And as we said before, we never know, what the future holds. What if the drug or alcohol problems later on and the money goes that way? Obviously not a good result. So what do we do instead? Well, your estate planning needs to be brought up to date with the DRA, the Deficit Reduction Act that we just talked about. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Very common situation here. Let's say we have what we call the I love you will. Very, very common. Husband's will says, I leave everything to my wife. If she dies first, then on down to the children. The wife's will says everything to the husband. If he dies first, then on down to the children. Am I doing okay on time here, Ian? Okay, very common situation. Well, what happens if the quote-unquote well spouse dies first? Let's say I'm sick and I'm the one in the nursing home. My wife is still at home in our residence. But guess what? She has a stroke or a heart attack. She passes on first. Now I inherit our joint assets. So if I'm receiving government benefits, that inheritance is going to kick me off, or if I haven't received them yet, I won't be able to apply for them because now I've received our joint assets. So this is a very important slide here, because the real question is, because of everything that we've been talking about today, we're all living longer, medical advances, etc. We're living into our 80s and 90s and even beyond. As elder law attorneys, we are learning ourselves plan better for this, and there have been a lot of good developments in this planning, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years, because the real question when we're planning is not what happens if I die, but what happens if I don't die, but instead become ill and have a long-term nursing home stay. That's the real question that we should be asking ourselves when we're doing this planning. Because again, going back to these numbers here, if it's a married couple, if I spend this in a nursing home, what's going to be left for my wife? Or if it's a single person, pretty much everyone that I have spoken to have said they would rather not see the money go to the nursing home. They would rather see it go to a child or a niece or a nephew or the church or a charity, not spend it all on medical costs if that can be avoided. So this is the real question. What happens if I become ill and need long-term care? How do we plan for that? So we have the I love you dearly but plan. We have a fail-safe in there. And what about your finances? Are you financially solid? What do I mean by that? As a lawyer, I can draft all these great legal documents for you, but if all your money's invested in the stock market, you lose half of it overnight or whatever in the next 3 months or 6 months, half your money is gone in the stock market, then all those legal documents haven't really done us any good. And particularly lately, the volatility. You all watch the news. The Dow's up 200 one day, down 300 the next day. It's scary stuff. And my personal opinion, and most of the financial gurus that you talk to out there, people 65 and older, people on a fixed income should not be in the stock market because of this volatility. Particularly when there are annuities, there are other financial instruments out there where you can still enjoy some of the gains when the stock market does go up, but you're protected from the downside. The principal is protected, so it doesn't just, you've lost half of it over a short period of time. So that's what we're talking about, financial stability there.